Hey guys, welcome to a replay analysis. This is the first one we've done today. Oh my god. It's crazy, right? Holy shit. We got ourselves a Protoss versus Terran with our boy Fury coming back again with some new knowledge here. Some knowledge. It's a diamond level game, guys, if you don't know what league this is. If you're not familiar with Fury himself. But yeah, diamond level PvT. Let's fucking do it, boys. Let's do it. So first things first, he's walling the cliff, guys. Let me just say really fast. I don't like this. I used to do this myself, and I don't like it as much because I feel like you'll have an easier time killing a Reaper in your base if you wall the back of your mineral line to the wall itself rather than preventing the Reaper from jumping up in your base.
When you have a cancer, you cut that shit out in a hurry before it spreads and move on.
Thank you, Izzy. Much love. So if you wall this off, the Reaper can't get in your base. It means it can't scout. It also means it won't die. If you have a wall here instead, it means if the Reaper gets in your base and he actually goes for probes, it means that the only way he's going to get out of your base is going back through the Stalker, and the chances of killing the Reaper go way up. And if you're not worried about hiding your tech, it's actually better to do it here because not only does this increase the chances you're actually going to kill the Reaper, it also gives you more money faster because your probes are running less distance back and forth in the early game when you're not actually fully saturated yet. Okay, now you're gonna do a gateway scout. There's your gas. I would say your gas is a very tiny bit late, but not a huge deal. And hey, Williams, thank you very much for the gifted sub. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so your probe's getting to his base, and what are we going to see, right? What are we going to see? Also close that. Okay, so you see an SCV coming out. It's all good. Normal. No command center. We see a barracks and a depot. So what do you want to do here? You want to immediately use your spray and spray it right here. And have it be that guy that's like, the really bruh? And he's looking up, and then you build a pylon right there. And then you scout into his main base. No, I'm fucking joking. Yeah, no, this obviously means that this dude, it looks like anyone who builds their command center, or sorry, anyone who builds their barracks like this, it's a sign, right? Here's a sign. Anybody who builds their barracks like this, does it guarantee that they're going to rush an add-on right away? Not necessarily, but I feel like it increases the chances that they are going to do that. So if a player has a opening like this, I would not be surprised if it starts off immediately with like a reactor, for instance. We'll have to see what he wants to do. And now you see he's making a gas. You could also tell when you got here, when you got to his gas, he mined about 40 gas as you were leaving, which means he's going to have about 50 gas because you can click it and you can see he was at like 2110. You can also see that he's got the racks done, so I would not be surprised if this just insta-reactors, like right away. I know he made a Reaper, it's fine. Again, it doesn't guarantee anything, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a reactor or not, it doesn't matter. I would say, with this build, the way you've seen it so far, you can already almost guarantee, that this dude's going to expand. Now, it's not 100% chance, so that's why I said almost. So if I were you, if you feel like there's a chance this guy might meta you, and what if there was like a second SCV over here that was going to build a barracks and you had no idea, and you're like, I don't want to get all in, I don't want to die. If you really wanted to be safe and you wanted to confirm that you're not going to die, you should definitely turn around for a second and just confirm that there's a command center. Higher level players they hide shit in weird ways where it looks like they're doing one thing and they actually do another. So he knows you expanded, right? He saw your expansion. You have not yet seen his, but now, I mean, it exists though, right? So if your probe actually turned around for just a moment and confirmed that there is an expansion there, then you would know there's no chance you're going to get all in and it would be fine. But if you don't confirm it, you're playing under the assumption, correct? You're playing under the assumption that he expanded, which is sometimes a risk. If your opponent doesn't actually expand, you could die. You could die. Be careful while you build your pylon as well. I don't really necessarily like this pylon placement. This is not a huge deal. I'm not like, well, this is going to lose you the game. This is not a huge deal, but I would honestly say if you're going to build a pylon near the Nexus, I would prefer you to build it a little bit further from the ramp or a little bit above the ramp. Like, don't build it directly in the pathway of where you need to defend your base. Because all this does now is it shrinks your concave. The only time this would ever make sense, there's only one time this pylon placement would ever make sense. It would make sense if you thought you were going to fight Hellions. Because then you could actually leave like one stalker right there and it would block the ramp on this whole side from this one pylon placement. But if you're fighting like someone, let's just say if hypothetically he went for like a stim pack bio timing, or let's say he went for like a tank timing, and you needed to either run your units from here forward, it would fuck you over, or if you wanted to run away from something backwards, it would fuck you over because it would traffic jam the shit out of your units. So be careful about where you place your pylon. I would just, not a huge deal, but definitely something to think about for future games. Like, think about where you place your buildings. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So you're going for an expansion. You've chrono boosted your Nexus a couple times with your pylons. You're making your probies. You got your robo. What the fuck is that? Wait, what just happened? Where is your adept? You fucking stuck it. That is also another reason why I fucking hate this. It's another problem people have, right? Because the adept recalled from here. So just know, again, if you ever build to here, if you decide this is for me, every game I have to build here, another reason why I don't like this, right? Just make sure you rally your fucking gateway to wherever the side of the gateway that is not being blocked. Because right now what's happening is units in StarCraft 2 always spawn, if they have no rally point, they always spawn in the bottom left area of the building. They always do. And they fill in the bottom left side, and then they fill in the top right side later. It always prioritizes the bottom left side first and prioritizes the top right side later. So if you don't rally point your gateway, there's a gap right there, and now that adept is stuck for life, right? And then you got to recall him out of there. And that's a waste of a chrono boost.
Glory to the Daylom.
Also, one more thing. I just want to reiterate one more time. Another thing I hate about this is all your fucking tech is exposed. I'm just not a fan of this build anymore. I don't like this pylon wall at the side. Because all of your tech is exposed, and if this guy decided to attack you with stim-packed Marauders and Medivacs, like bio drops, he could pick off your core, your robo, and your council where they're at right now. Easy peasy. From the low ground. Like a Marauder shooting right here could literally range all the way up to easily on that robo and that council. So it's just scary putting all your tech so exposed like this. And if a guy tank pushed you, it would be also scary. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that anymore. I used to be a fan of this like 2 years ago. I'm not a fan of it anymore. Because again, I only think it makes sense if you're trying to hide tech. In terms of practical purposes. Okay, you send your adept out. This is scary. So your adept as well is very late now. You got to realize as well, whenever you send an adept out, if you go adept first and you go to attack with your adept, this adept is now a scout. It's just a scout now. This adept is not an attacker. You've already missed your window to attack. If you try to attack with this adept, he's going to fucking die. Like, he's not going to pay for himself and the amount of shit that he kills. And even worse, if you over invest into this adept and you over micro it and you stop macroing for even a second anywhere else because you try to make something die with your adept, you're going to fall even further behind because this adept 100% is not going to pay for itself. It shouldn't at this point unless your opponent's playing really poorly because it's already like 30 seconds later than it should be. It's like super late. So it gets here and there's a bunker. Now you could back up and definitely shade past it, which is fine. And that's what you should do. You should just use it as a scout. Literally stand here, shade, cancel shade. Stand here, shade, cancel shade. Keep standing here, shade, cancel shade. Scout composition, scout add-ons, scout buildings if he builds any building. What if he builds a command center right there? You could see, what if he builds a command center right there? That'd be great if you could see it. How many gases is he taking? This is what the adept should do, is scout the fucking natural and scout the tech. But if you run in there and die, it's never going to actually do anything. Exactly. So it missed its window to do anything. The bunker's already down and there's already like 4 Marines inside of it. So it's never going to do shit. Even if it just runs past the bunker and almost dies in the process. It'll just die right after. Now you have an observer. So this observer didn't quite need to do this. The adept could have done this as well. But I'm not against observer scouting. It's fine. And you see what looks like a tank Terran who's going bio. He's going Marine tank medevac with a follow-up of bio, and he's making another tech lab on his factory. So what this means is this means you're probably going to be dealing with, if I had to guess, if I was a Protoss player right now and I was playing against this, and my tech choice was your Council Robo, it's a bit awkward. Let me say this as well. You go Robo first, and then you go Council second. Now, I'm going to talk to you about build order representation really fast. Robo first only makes sense, honestly, it only makes sense if you're going to do one of 2 things. It makes sense if you're going to aggressively push. Really, okay, there's a third thing as well. Okay, so I know there's going to be some nitpickers out there. They're like, no, Vibe, there's actually 3. Ah! Yes, okay, there's 3. Let me explain them really fast. One of them is super rare, though. And here's why I say that. I'll explain why I think the third one's kind of like not really represented well with the way you've done your build. So the first option you have going Robo first. Be aggressive with it. Don't go to a Robo Bay. Use what's in the Robo itself, the facility, and make Immortals. Make a Prism. Do something super aggro. Very, very, very aggressive, like all in essentially. That is one thing you can do that makes sense if you go Robo first. Now that's the aggressive option that makes more sense for how you played. Now the other option is you can go for a defensive Robo Bay and go defensive Disruptors or defensive Colossus. That also makes sense. Because if you go Robo first, you'll be able to actually get Robo Bay tech down quickly, and you can start going into Colossus really early or go into Disruptor tech really early, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Now you have your Robo tech. Really, really well done. Now, the fact that you added it in a Twilight Council at the same time almost, like your council's being built as your Robo's also still being built. It's like a 20-second difference. This is a little bit much, and the reason why I say this is because Council pairs way better with builds like Fast Blink Stalkers, Fast Charge Lots, a DT build, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to do one of those builds, you want to go Council first, not Council second. And the reason why that matters is because those upgrades take for fucking ever to finish. And there's a good chance that if your opponent does, like, let's say, for instance, a siege tank timing, and you go for, like, charge lots, you're not going to have charge by the time he's sieging your base because you went Council second. Not only that, but it's also expensive, and you won't be able to produce units properly out of your buildings. And you're doing this all off of one gateway. So finally, let's go back to the Robo. We talked about aggressive Prism Immortal. We talked about defensive Colossus Disruptor. The third option you can have with the Robo is a aggressive option once again that is based on tech. Like you could actually have like a Warp Prismed Colossus or like a Warp Prismed Disruptor fly around his base and like try to pop SCVs. You could do that too. That is like less common, less likely to happen. But you could do that. But I would say this: if you were going to do that, it's 100% going to be it's extremely expensive. The reason why it doesn't make any sense at all to do that is because it doesn't even need a council. It doesn't need a council. The council would come way later if you did that. It's again too expensive for the. You would want to have raw units. You would want to make units constantly out of your Robo. You'd want to make more gates instead of the council, and also expand and shit like that. You'd want to contain your opponent, not go for council. So these two techs together make no sense. You need to pick one. The only thing that would make sense with how early you kind of built these together would be if you went council first, and then as council was like done and you started charge, you then started a Robo, and you were like chrono boosting charge, and then you were going to then chrono boost out a Prism and do it like an 8 gateway Warp Prism Zealot all in, a charge lot all in. That would be okay if you went buildings like this, similar to these build times, but you went council first. because it would be all about a charge lot all in. But again, this is not a charge lot all in, and it shouldn't be because you went robo first. So a bit awkward about how you placed your build. Also, another thing I would say. Remember how we talked about methodical build placements? Like, think about what you're doing before you do it. I disagree with these gateway placements. And here's why. If your opponent pushes you in front of your natural, if you have too much of your high ground area being fucked over by surface area because you build a lot of your buildings here, it's just gonna fuck up your concave. You still have a bit to work with here. It's not like it's gonna be totally fucked already. But the concept of how you're building gateways here, I don't like it. Because all it does is if you have to back up at all, it fucks your concave. However, if you built the pylon and the gateways at the ramp, again, to like stop Hellions or some shit, I'd be totally okay with it. But I would argue, why put the gateways in the natural when you could just easily put them in the main base, and now it doesn't fuck a concave if you get attacked in the natural. If this guy were to pressure you, your concave is going to have a problem now. Like, it has a chance to have a problem now. A bigger chance. And what's happening here? Okay, you're going for Blink. So if you're going to go for Blink, I'm okay with this. Definitely go Council first and get Robo much later. Here's some timers for you, okay? This is some timer for you. What do you need an Observer for? What do you actually need an Observer for? You need an Observer for detection. You do not need, if anyone says you need it to scout, vibe, you need it to scout, I would say, no you don't. Because you have a Sentry that can make Hallucinated Phoenix. And you also have the Adept, which you did make, which can do shades into his base. So you don't need an Observer to scout his base. That is lazy ass scouting, where you just send one Observer and you like oversight mode it, surveillance mode it, like right in the middle, and you go, hopefully he never sees it, right? That's like lazy ass scouting. You don't need to rush an Observer to scout. You don't need to do that. There's other options as well that don't need to make you make a Robo. Now, if you're going to go for, and here's the thing. If you want to make an Observer, like what if my opponent goes for Cloaked Banshees? Well, if you know your opponent went for 2 bases right off the bat, the fastest you can make Cloaked Banshees is around 5 minutes. And if your opponent did not go for an expansion, subtract 30 seconds off of that. The fastest your opponent could probably get Cloaked Banshees without an expansion would be 4:30. So think about the build time of a Robo. It's 46 seconds, right? Yeah. It's a 46-second build time, and an Observer itself is 21 seconds. So together, those build times of those buildings, 46 and 21, is 1 minute and 7 seconds. So think about what you're up against. If you're up against a 2-base build and you're afraid of Banshees, play it safe and build a fucking Robo at 3 minutes. Start a Robo at 350. That way you'll have an Observer out just before 5 minutes, and if a Cloaked Banshee shows up, you have Observers. If you're playing against a Terran player who goes for 1 base, and you're like, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe it's Cloaked Banshees. Make an Observer, make a Robo, again, like 70 seconds before 4:30, which is going to be 3:20. Start a Robo at 3:20 because, and this is kind of when you built it, honestly. So this would have been an appropriate Robo time if you were fighting a 1-base player. But you're fighting a 2-base player. So it's way too fucking early for Observers. And you just another thing too is if you're going to open this way, it depends on what you want to do, right? It depends on your plan. If you don't, so like the fact that you're taking a 3rd base super fast, the fact that you're actually taking a 3rd base super fast, and you're making probes and you're making stalkers out of your gateways, I would honestly say I would prefer you to chrono boost out your blink. And this is why. Your build is actually very weak right now. It should be. Blink Stalkers is not going to be a great option versus tanks, Marines, and Medevacs. It's just not. It's like saying Roaches by themselves are a good option against Sentries, Immortals, and Stalkers. Like, they're not. Tanks destroy Stalkers, and then Marines can, like, kill Stragglers really hard. So what is in your best interest is if you actually get faster blink and you can actually make fights happen quicker than otherwise. So if you wait until he sets up tanks at your base and you still don't even have blink by then and he starts picking your army apart, that's how you lose the game, right? That's how you're going to get fucked up. Whereas what if you had blink already? What if you already had blink and you were like, oh, look, I see a push and you have 8 stalkers right here with blink and you just pick off that tank and you like blink micro 1 stalker at a time backwards from the Marines that are attacking you, and you kill this whole army before it even sieges and before it also groups up. Like, that'd be a great way to use blink right there. And then suddenly now you have the advantage to counter pressure him, right? You need to chrono boost blink if you're going to open up robo or if you're going to open up council first. You really need to chrono boost your council, especially if you're going to be playing greedy. Chrono boosting your blink wouldn't be as impactful if you went for like 7 gates with this or like 6 gates with this and you were chrono boosting your probes instead to just make more stalkers. Then it would not be as impactful to chrono boost your blink because you'd have the supplement of just more stalkers and more units. But you have low stalker count because you're taking a third, and you also have a slow blink because you're not chrono boosting it. This is a double, you're double dipping in the greed because you're expanding fast and you're chrono boosting probes and you're also getting a slow ass blink and not making many stalkers. So your early game is going to get fucking pounded because your opponent's doing a 2-base timing. So he kind of fucked up there by attacking early. Like, he didn't have his army grouped up, right? And we're talking about how you can punish that. You did that without blink. I feel like he might have been able to have done a little bit more there with positioning, but it's okay. He falls back, and now what I just talked about doesn't matter anymore because the Terran took a bad fight. And now I would say, looking at this game realistically, you are now way ahead. And why are you way ahead? Why does it logically make sense that you're way ahead? The Terran just failed a timing because he was lazy about how he set it up. It was a big fat fail. And he made 5 fucking racks, a factory, and a starport before a 3rd command center. You made 3 gates, a robo off of a 3rd nexus, and then you made more production. Your build is already, even though I don't like how this went with the council robo, or sorry, I said that right, the council robo. I don't like how that went. But even though I don't like that, about the order, we talked about that already, the idea of your build of going production after 3rd, after you've now shut down a timing, you're way ahead. You're miles ahead. Your build is already now in a much better place than his is. You don't ever want to be like, I got tons of production, but now I'm going to expand, and I didn't do any damage. That's a fucking terrible place to be. Yo, Retrograde Bird, thank you very much for the tier 1. So logically, your build now makes a lot more sense than his does. Like, in terms of just the way that the game is kind of developed. And now he's kind of attacking you again. See what I mean? This guy's attacks are like really half-assed. He just threw his medevac away. And now he's got his army. His bio is spread. The Terran's not doing a great job of attacking. Okay, so what's going on here now? You're making Colossus with range, you're getting charge lots, and you're getting weapon upgrades. So this is another moment where I would question choices about what's going on, right? So here's the thing. Your build could make a lot more sense if it was just kind of like you're doing this is one of those things where I've said this to Zerg players a lot, and I'll say it to you now as a Protoss player. You're doing 2 builds at the same time, and they're both branching out both ways. And it could be so much stronger if you just picked one or the other. The fact that at 7 minutes, you have only lost 4 units, but in total, you only have 11 units. At 7 minutes, you have 11 units, and you've only lost 4. So you've actually made 15 units over the last 7 minutes of this game. And you've had, this was a 1-gate opener into an expand and a quick 3-gate opener. You've had 3 gates for the majority of this game. You are now also on 8 gateways. You could make the entirety of your army that you have made this game very fast. You could make it all right now, and then 23 seconds later, make it again. And then you would have 1 more unit than what you've made all game. Like, I'm telling you right now, this is not great efficiency out of your gateways. And the reason why it is not great efficiency out of your gateways is because you cannot afford efficiency out of 8 gateways if you're also going for a Robo with a Robo Bay with Colossus and Colossus range. Not only that, you're chrono boosting it, which means you have to make Colossus at a faster pace. You cannot afford this and all the gates and blink and charge. Now, having all of that together at the end of the game, sure, that's fucking great. Makes a lot of sense. I don't mind that. But what I mean is your build would be so much stronger if you opened up with either faster Colossus defensively with fast economy, which is stronger than this. You're only really taking good fights because your Terran opponent is literally taking the worst fights of his fucking life. But if you had defensive Colossus with no blink and no charge, you'd have a much better defense because you'd have Colossus faster and you'd be able to make probes faster. And then once you have a good economy, then you take the opposite, which is more gates and a council with forges and shit like that. And you then go ham on the gateway side with Colossus support. Vice versa, what if you only made the Robo for an observer and that was it for now? And then you didn't even make the Robo Bay for now, and you went crazy production out of your gateways. And instead of only having 15 units by 7 minutes, what if you actually had 32 units by 7 minutes? Because you were just slamming units out constantly. And what if you also, think about this too, your allocation of resources. It does not make sense to take a bunch of your gas. It does not make sense to take a shitload of gas if you're going to open Charge Lot Stalker. It doesn't. You should actually stay on like literally like 2 gases. And you could actually utilize your gateways like crazy with Charge Lots and Stalkers. Make like 15 to 20 Stalkers, probably like more like 15, and then make like 40 Zealots. And suddenly you'll probably win the game a lot of the times by just running your opponent over with Charge Lot Stalker. And then you could add on, after you have a good economy of minerals, you could then add on more gas with more probes, and then you could add in Robo Bay and upgrades, more upgrades and stuff like that, like Colossus range and shit. But you're taking way too much gas to support Colossus, and you don't have enough minerals to support gateways, but you also built a bunch of gateways. So that's what I'm saying. Your build is like 2 different builds at once. It doesn't make sense. Your probe count is also very limited because here's the thing. Your probes, your third nexus, if you're going to play greedy and take a fast third nexus, your third nexus should go down, honestly, off of 3 gate council. Your third base should be going down by like 4 minutes to like 420. Which means it should be also fully saturated on minerals on this base by probably like 5:30 to 6 minutes. Fully saturated by just about 6 minutes or less. And we're at 7 minutes, you only have 10 probes on it.
Why vibes balls so big?
Thank you very much, N.A. Williams. You don't have nearly enough is what you should, is what I'm trying to say. You have way less than you should. Like your supply right now at 7 minutes and 20 seconds should be like 140. Or like 130 at least. And you have way lower. And it's because, again, watch this. If I grab all your gateways, and your Robo might maintain production. It's very realistic. You've actually prepared a build that can at least maintain Robo production, but I guarantee your gateways will not maintain. Like right now, for instance, you made half of your gateways units. Now let's watch. Do the other gateways get used at all? Okay, they got used. Now let's watch these gateways. What happens with these gateways? Okay, 1 got used. Okay, they all get used. Good shit. Now what happens next? Okay. Gateways. There we go. There's a round. Now let's watch the next wave. I think they're going to sit there again for a while. Gateways. This is on ×4 speed, by the way. 2 gateways got used. There we go. Another 4 got used. Still got 2 off. 2 more gateways come back off. The point I'm trying to make here is your build is it's just too expensive. It's too expensive. It's like basically like saying you have $50 in your hand and you're trying to use your $50 to pay for $100 worth of items. Like you just can't afford it. And the way you could afford it is if your build just flowed better. Because again, you're doing like a hybrid of the council build with minimal gas and lots of gates, and you're also pairing that with a build that does mineral priority and fast gas follow-ups of Colossus defense. And both of these builds are weaker than what they would be if you just focused on one of them. I think the way you play, honestly, you should probably focus on the Robo first. Go Colossus. Like, literally go Robo Bay. Get a third base with Robo Bay. And then finally, after you have a third base that's fully saturated, like on minerals at least, then take your Council and then take Double Forge. That's when you should be building those buildings. You're building these buildings way too fucking early, and you're not being aggressive at all, which is... And here's the thing, right? Robo first with Colossus, that's great. Super good for defense. The way you played the game was correct for Robo. In terms of Colossus style. The way you played the game for going Council with Blink and Charge is incorrect. Because you went 8 gateways. At least you did it after a third base. But you went 8 gateways, and you didn't attack once. You never attacked it. The only attack you actually tried was the one Adept that walked across the map and died. So if you're not going to be aggressive, definitely your style favors into the Robo side, the Colossus side. But just take your gateways, like take your extra gateways and your Council and your Forges after you saturate your third mineral line. Speed up your third base saturation. Speed up how fast you build Colossus. And constantly make units out of like either 2 or 3 gateways. Literally stay on 2 or 3 gates until you're like at like 7 minutes, and then you explode at 7 minutes. Then you make like 5 more gates. You take your Council and you take your Council, your 5 gates, and your Robos or your Forges, whatever, your upgrades and your fucking gateways. And then you can chrono boost your upgrades, because at that point your probe count's gonna look fucking juicy, and you're gonna have this big fat army that's gonna be super strong. And then by the time you actually have Charge and Blink, you could also then add in like Storm. And you could go for a like an upgrade timing of like Colossus, High Templar, everything on A move, and just microing your Templars. A move Colossus with Stalker's Zealot and High Templar, and you just storm shit as Colossus melt shit with decent upgrades of like either like 2-2 or at least 1-1 working on 2-2. Does that make sense, Scuba? I hope it makes sense. But yeah, your build is just out of order. It didn't really flow with either style. It flowed more with Robo, but you had so little Colossus when you could have had more. And an ideal number of Colossus. Here's what you should be doing as well with the Robo. 4 Colossus. Make 4 Colossus. And if your opponent is still going ground, like if he's going Marine Marauder, whatever, tanks, make 4 Colossus. And then once you have 4 Colossus, make 1 other unit. Either start adding in disruptors to it, if you're comfortable with disruptors. And again, this is Diamond, so I would say probably not. If this was Masters, I'd be like, yeah, definitely go disruptors. But we go Colossus, and then once you go Colossus, start adding in Immortals. Like go 4 Colossus and then start adding in Immortals over time. And if your army is like 5 Immortal, 4 Colossus with some Stalker Zealot and some Templar, your army is so fucking strong. You made almost nothing out of your Robo. You made like an Observer and 3 Colossus this entire game. And it's because you could not afford all of your shit again. Or maybe like, I don't know, maybe you did make 4 Colossus, but I saw 2 Colossus at the end of the game. See, like this fight right here, see how you got denied right there? This is a perfect example of what I mean. You got denied right here. The Terran pushes you, you push back, right? You go attack. Or you group up your army, now you attack him. You're doing this with slow Zealots. Not only are you doing it with slow Zealots, you're doing it with a supply that is equal to Terran. The Terran is attacking you. Like, this Terran, I can't, okay, I'm not going to even talk about the Terran. I don't like his playstyle either, personally. He's fucking playing really weird. This Terran's attacks are a bit impatient, is the best way I could use here to describe it. But you're defending yourself with slow Zealots, Blink Stalkers, and with equal supply to Terran. And the reason why you're equal supply to Terran, when the Terran is teching to a starport, he's making tanks, he's got an armory, he's going into fucking double engineering bay upgrades, he's got stim pack, he's got combat shield, he's got all these fucking upgrades, right? It's fine. And again, the big one is he's got a fucking starport producing medevacs. He's teched. He's producing tanks. He has teched. The equivalent of what your build would be like with 8 gateways and a council would be like if Terran went for 8 racks and double engineering bay. And then if you could somehow build an armory as well off of an engineering bay. That's what it would be like for Protoss, right? So your supply, the fact that your supply, you have no Colossus here right now. You have no, there's your Colossus right there, but you have no Colossus in the fight. There is no reason why you're defending your base with just pure Zealot Stalker versus Medevac army and Tank army with Bio. Why are you the same supply? So this is what I'm saying when I'm saying that your build is like two builds at once. Because if your build was actually Colossus-less, if you had no Colossus, you would not be defending with slow Zealots and a 99 supply. Instead, you would have like the same Stalker count that you do. You would have Charge. And instead of having 99 supply, because you have 7 Zealots, you have like 27
Hey
Zealots.
Vibe, I just want to
and
say
you have like
thanks for the
140.
B2GM series. I just out-macroed another Terran who harassed me all game and lost, then calls me a smurf. Just wanna say thanks.
Yo, thank you very much, Exile, for the 5. Thank you, dude. Appreciate you. Thank you, man. But you get what I mean. Like if this was a pure council build, you would just have a lot more supply. And imagine how this fight would look if the Terran attacked you with 98 supply of random assorted shit that's not even grouped up right now, versus 140 supply of Charge Lot Stalker. You would fucking run his ass over, and then your stalkers could blink after the medevacs and kill the medevacs, so he couldn't even retreat. He would lose everything. Like every unit of Terran here would die. Or vice versa. Imagine if this guy pushes you right now with this army, and instead of having 7 Zealots and 10 Stalkers, what if you had 10 Stalkers and like 3 Colossus? Same shit, right? Now instead of having slow Zealots, you'd have just more Stalkers because you don't have as many gateways. But you'd have a lot more Colossus because you would have prioritized your Colossus better. Because again, almost 8 minutes in the game, having only 1 Colossus is very late. So if you had 3 Colossus here, you'd be melting his bio so fucking fast. At least his Marines. And his Marauders would be taking damage, but they wouldn't melt like Marines do. The Stalkers could definitely help kill them, though. But like either one of those would be much stronger than what you've done here. And again, the only reason why I think you won this game is because this Terran player attacks very lazy, and he's very impatient about how he sets up fights. But anyways, yeah. That's really what your biggest problem is. It's just like your developing stages are not nearly as powerful as they could be. Like you could honestly, if you were going for council first, you could already be maxed by now. You could have been maxed by like 820, 830 off of just pure Stalker Zealot with like 15 gateways or like 16 gateways with like 4 base mineral line economy or maybe even 5 base mineral line economy. Because why? Because your build is so mineral heavy that you don't have gases at your natural. You don't have gases at your 3rd, 4th, 5th. None of them have gases. It's all minerals. And then once you do your timings and you have control of the map, like let's say Terran looks like he's establishing a fortification and you're like, okay, I can't really break him anymore. But you're still trading with him and you're still being a problem. But you're like, all right, let's develop myself further. And I already have like 84 probes. You could then just be like, okay, cool. I'll just take 6 gases all at the same time and I'll make 2 robos at the same time. And I'll start making immortals until my Robo Bay is done. And then I'll start making Chrono Boosted Colossus until I have 4 of them. And suddenly your army goes from just pure Stalker Zealot into like this crazy ass Immortal Colossus Stalker Zealot. Like there's so many ways you can play this that are just stronger. Again, you're just doing 2 builds at once. Defensive Colossus mixed with aggressive Council. And they don't go together because the economies don't match at all. For all the reasons we already said. Because at this point it would just be repeating myself. But I hope this makes sense for Protoss players out there that are, struggling with like getting attacked by timings of Terran. And obviously Fury did win this game, but yeah. Thank you, Fury, for doing this, and I will see you I'll see you guys in the next replay analysis. Till then, take it easy, much love, and good luck in your games. Peace, guys.